It's the Growler with BD and J. Here to analyze for you today. From Growler Bet to Jay's got stats. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Growler Podcast.
All right. Welcome into the latest edition of PD&J. Paul Daner Jr. and Jay Morrison here with you on Boxing Day, day after Christmas. Happy Boxing Day to you, Jay.
Happy Boxing Day. You can see in the back, I still have some presents that are not opened yet this shoulder.
Yes.
My daughter actually went on a cruise, so we're waiting for her to get back to exchange. It's great to be a teacher. You get a lot of time off at Christmas time, so she'll be back. And technically not Boxing Day yet for us. We still have some presents to open.
But still some presents to open. Proud to say that my Everton club got a draw with Man City on Boxing Day. Started Boxing Day off right. A soccer holiday really is what it is. And anytime we can get 1 point against a good club, we'll take it. So shout out to our UK listeners out there as I opened with some footy talk. How about that on Boxing Day? I'm here for you. Houday UK. All right. We've got a lot to get to. We're kind of shoving two shows into one here today. Bengals-Broncos. Actually, you know what we're doing? We're shoving three shows into one a little bit because no Houday Light tomorrow because we have such a short shelf life going into the game on Saturday. So we've got the show that we would have done on Tuesday on Christmas Eve. We've got our normal PD&J Houday Light tomorrow. Nope, all together here. One show previewing Bengals-Broncos, which kicks off at 4:30 on Saturday at Paycor Stadium. We, of course, have our live show, which will be kicking off. You know how we do it. Tons of fun down there at BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks. We're going to start at noon. Because we know you guys are going to be ready to roll on Saturday. A Saturday afternoon, finally. We've been doing the 10 a.m. start. We've been they flex some of our would-be fun evening games into earlier starts this year, but no. Good timing for us. So we're going to start at noon to 1. We will be at Nation Kitchen and Bar. It's going to be a blast. We've got some fun plans for you. We'll take your questions. So if you've got questions, bring them down there. We'll answer them. We'll be talking a little bit about the game. We will be doing some giveaways. Of course, Cincy shirts. We're going to get some Cincy shirts, some of the Katanas shirts, some of the new Superman shirts. If you haven't seen Superman's new stuff, or Cincy shirts' new stuff, they've got all kinds of great stuff. To go to cincyshirts.com, check that out. And we'll have some to give away down there. We'll have another Grader shipper. Our great friends at Graders will be giving that away that you can ship. You're like, look, I forgot an entire family for Christmas. How can I make up for it? Quickly, Graders can get you a turnaround and get some Graders to one of your family or friends. We'll have some Growl Pal shirts, of course. And I'm going to buy someone's bar tab at the end.
Yes.
That's what I've decided that's what I'm going to do. So you guys go there, whatever your bar tab ends up being. If you end up the winner, and we'll come on down and we'll show you how, I'm going to buy a bar tab. And so that's coming your way. Come on down, show up at noon. If it's cold, if it's rainy, guess what? It sure isn't inside of BetMGM Nation Kitchen. Cheap drinks, good times. Come on down there and join us. But that's all leading up to this big game. We're going to get through the news. There's a ton of news that we want to kind of touch on, especially some changes in the dynamics of the playoff picture coming off the Christmas games. We're going to talk a little bit about the dynamics of the Bengals this season as they are now back facing two more teams with winning records. I've got some background on that. I got some stats on that. Yeah. And we're going to do it. We're going to do a haunt ranking, a haunt factor ranking. I'm curious what listeners' haunt ranking would be on some of these as we go through that. Game outlook. I have more than a few very interesting stats about the Broncos since week 10 that might open some eyes that you, or at least make you realize exactly how well they've been playing or where they can be taken advantage of. And of course, Jay, you got stats. We've got Growler bets. We're going to go through last week's Growler bet. A lot of great submissions, predictions, ARBIES. You know the drill. All of that coming your way. You're going to hear from Dan Pitcher as well here in a little bit. We talk a little bit. He had some very good stuff to say about Joe Burrow and cadence and some of the other sort of underlying factors that have made him so good this year. Not that you didn't know that he was good this year if you're a Bengals fan. Let's go through news. Jay, Not the result the Bengals wanted yesterday.
No.
Because the Chiefs clinch the number 1 overall seed, which means if they don't want to, they don't have to play their starters against Denver next week. The latest DVOA formula came out, and they baked into the formula some assumptions about starter resting, and that bumped the Bengals playoff percentage changes down to 1%. So that's not great.
Not good. It is interesting though, because when you clinch, it's one thing to be locked into a seed. It's another thing to be locked into that 1 seed, because you would like to rest your starters, but there's always that argument, the rest versus rest argument, and maybe they just play them a half. The other thing is the Chiefs have owned the Broncos, and that would be just on brand for that rivalry for the Chiefs to rest their starters and still find a way to beat Denver in that finale. I know it's not what the Bengal fans wanted, but I don't think this is a slam dunk that the Broncos are just going to walk over the Chiefs in week 18.
I don't think it's a slam dunk either. And I, spent some time reading through the Chiefs' reaction from a number of different stories, our own Nate Taylor and some of the other sources out there on what maybe they'll do. And there's a lot of Patrick saying, look, I'll do whatever Coach Reed wants to do. I'll play. He's been playing through this high ankle sprain. I mean, he's really the big domino here. Whatever they're going to do with him, because somebody's got to play, and the Chiefs have a lot of good players. But are they going to say the high ankle sprain and the rest for Mahomes is worth it when you talk about 24 or 25 days between games for them, because they go from Christmas all the way to that January 18th, 19th. That's a long time. And so they've got an interesting decision to make in regards to that game. So that'll be something that you'll have to track if the Bengals can win, obviously, on Saturday. It is an elimination game for them. The one way that they can be eliminated officially this weekend is just losing to Denver. And that's the only way that they can be. If they win, they will be alive in some capacity in week 18. But the timing of those games potentially could be up in the air. I think, Jay, I feel like it kind of helps narrow down for us a little bit when they'll play Pittsburgh, because of the dynamics now with Baltimore up a game and Pittsburgh going to need them to lose to bring them back into a tie where Pittsburgh could then still win the division. I would assume that they're going to want those at the same time.
Yeah, you can almost guarantee they will. That's typically what they do. With them, that means that you take off the table Sunday night football for Bengals Steelers and either of those Saturday standalone windows. They're going to want the Steelers and the Ravens playing at the exact same time. Probably 4:00 Sunday, but maybe 1:00. The NFL's, there's a lot of games there's no duds out there where nothing's going to be on the line. A lot of times the duds go at 1:00, the meaningful games go at 4:00 in that final weekend, but it's going to be really hard to do. And they can't really say, okay, we'll do the NFCs at 1, the AFCs at 4, and just keep it all together, because Arizona's at home, Denver's at home. You got teams that can't play at 1:00 because of the time zones they're in. So this is going to be really tricky for the NFL to come up with this schedule. But I do think we feel pretty good that Bengals Steelers is going to be in the 1 or the 4 window on Sunday.
Yeah, so look for that, and of course more on that, all depending on for the Bengals, your interest, whether they can beat the Broncos on Saturday. Jay, there was a question sent in to us about the tiebreakers with Indy and Miami. Can you kind of dive into that for us real quick?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't remember the person's name that sent in the question. Let me look real close here. Mancuso Law, AOL. Shout out to an AOL address. I saw
AOL in the
address.
house.
Yes.
Wow, look at you go.
But he wanted to know why the Colts and the Dolphins would beat out the Bengals if they finished tied, because they didn't play head to head. Well, the next tiebreaker after head to head is conference record, and the Bengals have one more conference loss than either of those teams. So that's why, because if they all win out, then the Colts and the Dolphins are going to have a better conference record. The Bengals get kicked out of the tiebreaker, then those two look at their head-to-head competition. My question is, the next tiebreaker after conference record, if it is a 3-way tie, it's strength of victory, and right now the Bengals are last in strength of victory.
Yes.
Now this is going to help because Denver and Pittsburgh are both, they have a lot of wins, but I don't I mean, the NFL has said that,
victory so bad.
yeah, but the NFL has said the Bengals are in if they get one loss from both of those teams. So they must. I don't know. It's really curious to me. I might send a question into the league and be like, is this definite? I mean, I know they're eliminated if those teams don't each lose a game, but are they guaranteed to get a playoff spot if they get all these random things that need to happen? Could they still miss out?
Yeah, I mean, sounds like they would, but I don't. Let's get through this weekend.
Yeah,
Too many scenarios, too deep in the weeds at this point. Get through this weekend, and when we get to all the rest of the explainers on that. Sad news: Bengals and Eagles legend Bill Bergie passed away this week, also in the news. So that's did you? I mean, you were. Did you ever meet Bill Bergie or interview him, or for any story or anything like that?
No, I never met him or interviewed him, but I did. I can't remember. It was this past offseason. I ranked the best and worst Bengals trades of all time, and I was like, oh, the Bergie one's got to be on there. I mean, as soon as they traded him to the Eagles, he was an All-Pro the next 2 years. Went to 4 Pro Bowls with the Eagles. I went back and I looked, and that might be the biggest win-win trade in NFL history, because people forget. I mean, as good as Bergie was, the Bengals got 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick for him, and Bergie's final game ever in the NFL was Super Bowl 15. The following year, the Bengals go to the Super Bowl with Wilson Whitley and Ray Griffin, and all the 3 players that they got for Bergie were all key players in that Super Bowl team. So it really kind of worked out for both teams. It was a weird situation. Some of the newer fans may not realize, but Bill Bergie signed a contract to play in the World Football League, which was going to play in the summer. Mike Brown, not happy about that at all, because he still had to finish the season with the Bengals, and it actually went to federal court, and they ended up compromising with saying, yeah, we'll trade you, and you can be the Eagles' problem if you want to play in the World Football League. The World Football League was going to pay him way more than the Bengals were paying him. That's, of course, why he wanted to sign that contract and play in the summer. So just a weird situation. One of the great ones ever. Great linebacker. I remember watching him growing up. Just a terrific player, and really sad anytime anyone passes, but when it's around the holidays, it hurts a little more.
Bergie was inducted in the Eagles Hall of Fame in 2009. He was a 3-time Eagles team MVP by vote of his teammates. So yeah, had an unbelievable career, great run. Rest in peace, Bill Bergie. So let's kind of turn the record here. We've got Hard Knocks. I don't know. Hard Knocks was interesting. They showed a pretty good episode, some good behind the scenes, a lot of behind the scenes with the Bengals stuff. You got a little bit of the interaction between Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow, essentially with kind of how it opened, basically, of Zach Taylor coming and say, good job finishing the game. I know it was frustrating and we'll address it. And as he's trying to say that, that's when the F that came out, about just Burrow being frustrated in that moment. So they did, we talked last week about how some of the stuff that they hadn't been showing was interesting. That did eventually make it in. And then they cut to them addressing it in the meeting and Burrow nodding along very much like, who knows how they cut that. But, I do think interesting that the week later they did get into it and they show how they address it in the meetings. Maybe that was a compromise.
I think that's what it was
between team and HBO. Like, we need to show this, but you don't have to show it right now. Let's actually show how they did address it to get a better picture of the full thing.
And they didn't show the whole thing either. It went a little longer than that, and it couldn't tell if he was saying we're 6-8 or we should have beat them by 80. The lip reading wasn't perfect on that line, but yeah, it was. I thought it was a really good show, especially, and you knew it would be when you've got 2 division games and it's the show about the division. And I thought it was maybe the best episode yet.
Yeah, no, a lot of good stuff. The back and forth when they're playing each other and you get the two. I still think that's been one of the cooler parts of doing the behind the scenes within division is watching how 2 teams prepare for each other and the depth that goes into during the week and how much they know about each other and planning for that and the history, and then you get into the actual execution of it during the game and how those things come to play out. It is the one thing that differentiated this Hard Knocks from other ones, obviously. And I think they've done a good job of using that differentiator to make it feel a little different, and how they've been able to do that, and being behind the scenes with both teams and watching the back and forth. They've done that in pretty much every episode where there's been a division game being played. And so kudos to HBO taking advantage of that part. Let's go forward here. On Tuesday, so Tuesday morning, there was availability. Dan Pitcher, Lou Anarumo, both spoke. Joe Burrow spoke. Zach Taylor. There was an open locker room. It was Christmas Eve, so everything was kind of messed up with it in general. Not everybody's down there. Jay, you made it down there. Not all of us made it down there for that, with family stuff going on and weird schedules. Any takeaways from what we heard from the Bengals on Tuesday for you?
Yeah, well, we're going to hear it here in a little bit, but I thought it was really interesting what Dan Pitcher, Lou Anarumo, even Joe Burrow too, talking about cadence and what a weapon that is for all quarterbacks, but for Burrow in particular. And Lou said it. He said we might lead the league in offsides drawn, and they might. I mean, Burrow has been really good at that, and not just getting guys to jump and getting the free 5 yards, but also getting the guys to jump and then holding your water and getting the free play. I mean, that's what happened on the final touchdown. He doesn't break an NFL record if he doesn't get the Browns to jump offside there. I don't think they throw a go ball to Jamar to try to run up the score on Cleveland unless it's a free play. So it has been a significant weapon. And that was probably my biggest takeaway from Tuesday. We got Lou, we got Pitch, we got Burrow, we got Zach. There was a lot of interviews on Tuesday on Christmas Eve.
So let's bring in that, so you can kind of hear a little bit of what Dan Pitcher and Lou Anarumo had to say about sort of Burrow using cadence as a weapon, something that we've seen a ton this year, and they found ways to bail him out, whether it was the beginning of that 99-yard drive, ways that they've been able to get some conversions, your standard where everyone in the building knows that they're not supposed to jump, but they still do it anyway because the inflection is so good. So here's Dan Pitcher and Lou Anarumo on Joe Burrow and his cadence.
Yeah. Can you coach cadence and hard count, or you just let him do what he does with that?
We emphasize it, and we put him in positions to be able to use it. And then some guys, what I'll say for him, and really for Ted Karras too, they're the two best guys I've ever been around in terms of really like taking ownership of that, and then even coming up with some variations on their own. They've bought into the fact that truly is a weapon, and so that's awesome as a coach. Because if it's you having to drive it all the time as a coach, trying to convince them that this is useful, we need to do this, but it's always kind of an afterthought, you're never going to get the mileage out of it that you want to get out of it. So I think we've really found a nice blend of, we preach it, we put you in position to use it, and then there's total buy-in from them. And so that's awesome, because now they're going to start doing it in spots where we don't even maybe emphasize it. Mm-hmm. And so I think he does an outstanding job with that. And obviously it's paid some dividends for us.
People, let me just follow up on that. People always think of getting guys to jump as the benefit to that, but how often does it happen where, like you were talking about, faking the Abby blitzes, where a hard count like that gets the defense to tell
absolutely
that they're not coming?
Yeah, I mean, the goal is to have a well-rounded package, right? So you can get him to jump, you get a free play. You get him to jump, you get a free 5 yards. You have such a convincing cadence that you get the safety shell to start to rotate, and so now you get a pre-snap indication of what the coverage is going to be. You get the linebackers to start to tip a blitz, so you can redirect the protection. And then maybe there's other times you go up and boom, you snap it on the first sound. Mm-hmm. And now if you're a defensive lineman, where do you live? Are you in the world of where I got to be ready to go on the first sound, or I got to be holding my water for 20 seconds as he goes through 3 cadences? That's the kind of indecision and the kind of doubt that we want to put in their minds, because it helps you from a protection standpoint too, just from the physical aspect of picking up pass rushers. If they're not able to get off on the snap count, that's a major win for the protector before the down even starts.
Zach mentioned in the post-game press conference that Joe is the best there is at cadence and getting guys to jump. How often does he use that in training camp? Maybe a lot.
No, he does a great job with it. I think that helps us, obviously, as we go through OTAs and training camp. Everything that he does during those times where we're going against them is he just has Joe has his God-given ability, but he also has that innate football awareness and instincts that you can't teach. He sees it. He's totally under control at all times. And that is a rare thing when you can get all those things together. And that's kind of what you're seeing on Sundays. It's amazing.
How do you prepare your guys for someone that's good at that other than saying just watch the ball?
You really just got to be super disciplined. And, it just adds an extra layer of stuff to all the other stuff you have to worry about when, I think he's gotten how many people on the too many guys on the field lately, right? We're kind of on a streak there.
Yeah.
And, he's elite. He's elite at a lot of things. He's elite at that too.
There's Dan Pitcher and Lou Anarumo. That's great. I mean, it really is also part of the entire team thing, because if you get new guys out there that aren't used to it, Cam Grandy, I think, was used as an example a little bit by Zach Taylor last weekend. But you get guys that aren't used to it, that aren't on the field a lot, that don't do it a lot, and it gets your own guys to jump in, and you need to be net positive if you're going to be a hard cadence and doing the guys. Everyone has to be on board, because you can get your own teammates pretty easily too. So it's obviously Burrow, the maestro there, but you've also got to have everybody on board. By the way, how many pictures exist on AP Wire of Joe Burrow yelling cadence out? That's a good mix there. There's a good mix.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly few. There's him at the line, but like really good shots of him barking out. There were only a couple, and every one of them was taken by Sam Green. I wanted to text Sam and be like, "Thank you," because I was looking for ones where you could see him actually screaming, and the only ones that existed were Sam, where he really zoomed in close and you could see Joe's face.
Sam knows the story. Sam knows the story. You can always count on Sam to come through. Great stuff. Really interesting stuff it really has become a big deal. And it's a great way to try to offset maybe a line that isn't so good in front of you all the time. Yeah. You've got to be able to work that snap count to keep the defensive line guessing a little bit more and help your offensive line win a little bit more. All right, let's kind of take a peek here now at Bengals-Broncos. We got to start with what this game is, and this is the Bengals venturing back into the world of good teams. They're 7-1 against teams with losing records this year. We talked a little bit about this early, in the walkout, and they have done a great job. They've taken advantage of, for the outside of that New England game, obviously, they've beaten everybody they should beat in their path, and you can't hate on them for their schedule. They've played who they were asked to play, and they, for the most part, have beaten those teams fairly convincingly. Now, they're 0-7 against teams with winning records this year, and it's going to be the defining stat of this season, especially if this goes the way that the percentages say that it will. I'm curious to see what it happens on Saturday and even next week against Pittsburgh, two teams that also have these winning. Are they going to end up 0-9 against teams winning records this year? I mean, is it going to continue to go that way? They've all been diabolical in their own way. Jay, I had to go look it up. I had to go look up how many times have the Bengals gone winless against teams with winning records in their franchise history. How many do you think? I don't know if have you looked at, do you already know the answer?
I would imagine it happened in 2019 because they only won 2 games, and probably in 2020 also. I don't know. 5?
9. It happened 5 times in the 90s alone. Okay.
Of course.
Of course it did. It did happen in 2019. They also were winless. But no, they did have a win against a team with winning record in 2020. But yeah, so 2019 being the last time. Here's the thing. So here's the years, and here's their record in the other games. each year, each of these seasons. Okay, so this is them against teams with losing records. The Bengals obviously been good in these games. In 1971, they were 4-5 in those games. 1991, they went 3-5. 92, hey, they were 5-3. Good job, 92 team. Way to go, Klingler. 94, 3-4. 1998, they were 3-7. 1999, they were 4-5. 2008, Fitzy year, 4-2. 2019, they were 2-7. They are 7-1 against team with losing records. So it's the dynamic of to be able to so easily put away all these other teams and then just finding ways to lose. I mean, you go back. I mean, I feel like we're going to go back into every pod that we did for about a 2-month span of making losing plays at winning time, and that being so much the theme of this season. So when you go back through it, I mean, will this be a continuation of that? Will it be the theme of the entire season, or have they taken a step? Have they figured some things out? Are they better at that now? Is Burrow playing at such a high level now that you won't have, I mean, I can't say we did have a fumble against the Browns. You won't have that critical fumble. You won't have that defense that can't get the stop. You won't have the penalty when you can't have it. You won't have the special teams miscue that blows a game. Are they different? Have they grown in that way? And will that get them a win in a big spot on Saturday? I don't know. Can we rank the 7 losses by haunt factor as you sit here staring at these bad percentages? Any one of them would flip those percentages by a massive amount today. But specifically, some of them would be major flips. What if we're going through Chiefs, Commanders, Ravens 1, Eagles, Ravens 2, Chargers, Steelers? What's your haunt factor ranking?
I'm gonna start with the home loss to the Ravens, just because it's such a routine thing that cost him, dropping a snap by Ryan Rico, and it was early in the year, and maybe that win there, that would have been 2 in a row. They would have been 2-3. Maybe that could have changed the trajectory a little bit. Second, I'll put the road win against the Ravens, just because, again, it's a division game. It comes down to a 2-point conversion. It comes down to a 2-point conversion where they should have got a second chance and been able to go from the 1 because of the uncalled face mask. If you think about it, if they win one of those Raven games, they're still alive to win the division title. If they win both of that games, they control their own destiny to win this division. That 2 simple plays, a dropped snap on a field goal, or on a field goal, and then the 2-point conversion. So I put both of those Raven losses right at the top. I would go Chargers third, because they would control their own destiny for the wild card had they won that game. And again, you're talking about a simple procedure, a couple of makeable field goals that Evan missed that cost them that game. Do you want me to go through the whole list? Or
no, you don't need to go through the whole list.
Yeah.
I think the top is good. I'm gonna, I would agree. I think Ravens won.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I think the tone that it set for the entire season, and how you felt like you were constantly climbing uphill, that really added on to it because of that loss and the nature of how it went down at the end, the control you felt like you had over it and let it get away. All of those things, I think that one is the most haunting. I'll give you Ravens too, because of the control that you had over it, and the meaning of it. I mean, they're still alive to catch the Steelers if they win that Steelers game.
Yeah.
I mean, again, how close was it? I mean, you give up 44 points, but again, you score 38 and you lose. Just baseline that. I mean, you score 38 and you lose, and you had so many different ways, just anybody making a single play or a single stop. And you could still you would have the fate to go chase the Steelers down right now.
Yeah.
How about this though? Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 things that don't involve the play you think I'm going to start with. Burrow fumble that's recovered, taken the other way, changes the whole dynamic of the game. And they punted to Patrick Mahomes in that game at the end. They had a chance to put it away on offense. They didn't have to turn it over to their defense. And then their defense was going to get the stop. And 4th and 16 happens. The Chiefs are playing their starters next week if the Bengals win that game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also changes the entire dynamic of the play picture, of the playoff picture. I mean, you can outside of the Eagles game, that was like, okay, you got boat raced one week by a good Eagles team. It happens, right? All of these are diabolical in their own way, and any of them flipping changes the entire dynamic of them getting in, winning divisions, being in the mix, the tone of the season, and it's just almost impossible for a team to lose all these. I know that this has kind of been, again, something we've talked about a lot, but when you go back from 2021 to 2023 in games against teams with winning records, the Bengals are 20-15, including the playoffs. I mean, it's not like this has been a problem. It's not like this. I think they're just the dynamic of the team and largely the dynamic of the defense. I mean, that's the things that have happened at the end have come from everywhere.
Right.
They've all been set up by a bad defense, by an awful defense.
Yeah. And all those games we mentioned, and I had Commanders last on the list because of this. They win any one of those, and the conference record thing is not, you don't have to worry about Miami and Indy losing a game for you to still have a chance. So all of them, you mentioned, and we talked a lot about it when it was going on, that the losses when they score 33 or more.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see this. The Bengals had this in their notes after the game. They've scored 24 or more in 7 straight games. That's a franchise record. They're 5-6 overall this year. They've scored 24 11 times. They're 5-6 when they score 24 points. Since 1970, there have been 149 teams that have scored 24 in 11 or more games. Only the 2016 Bills and the 2024 Bengals have a losing record in those games. That's just 24. I mean, it is amazing what is going on.
It's been that kind of a season. And that's just it. I mean, any one of those.
Yeah.
And everything looks and feels very different. Let's talk about Bengals-Broncos, though, because there is still hope. And they still have to go out there and win, and this is going to have a playoff game feel, as close as this season is probably going to get to a playoff game feel, more than likely, where it's just win and you stay alive, period. Losing, you're out. Full-on elimination game in one building, nothing else taken into play. Here's the outlook on the Broncos. Broncos are 9-6. They win, and they are in. So that's the status for them right now. They're trying to get a playoff berth here right now, and there's nothing for sure for them. So they know all that's on the line. They had won 4 in a row before losing to the Chargers last week, 34-27. In what was a great game. Felt like a game between two playoff teams. It felt like, two teams that trading blows in LA, a fantastic game down there. Bengals are favored by 3 over and under. Over-unders at 49.5. The Broncos, we're talking about the Bengals scoring streak. The Broncos have scored 27 or more points in 5 straight games. Now, their defense is helping them with that. And the Colts are helping them with that too. But the defense is helping them with that in terms of getting turnovers and creating points off of turnovers and all of that. How about this, though, Jay? Since week 10, the Broncos offense ranks 11th in points per drive, 14th in EPA per play, and they are 9th in adjusted net yards per attempt. They have been a solid, above-average performing offense with Bo Nix at the helm since week 10. He's come into his own. He is, his turnover-worthy play percentage is a really low number amongst all of those. I mean, he's in the same Burrow range in terms of, he's not putting the ball in harm's way very often. He's making a few plays. But mostly he's not costing them. And you saw, the Chargers game was a good example of it, where he was just throwing a ton of short passes because that was what was being given to him, and he was taking them. But he was taking them. He was staying patient. He wasn't turning the ball over, understanding that's a way for them to win games. Why is it a way for them to win games? Because their defense has been dominant. Their defense has been, they've had times where they've gotten exposed. I mean, Jameis puts up a gazillion yards for 497 and they score 32 points. And then you had the Chargers putting up 34 points as well. It's not like they can't be scored on, but since week 10 in points per drive, the Broncos rank 6th, EPA per play, they're first, defensive success percentage, they're first, red zone tied for second. They have created a ton of turnovers. They're 4th in the league in turnover margin in that span. They are 5th in the league in adjusted net yards per attempt differential. They've forced 12 turnovers in the last 5 games. Burrow's been really good about not turning it over. The Bengals as a whole during this latest stretch have had a few issues with that, though. So can they clean that up? That's the way that the Broncos have been winning, and it's been setting them up to have success on the offensive side of the ball, too, because they can play with the lead. They can run the ball. They can run play actions and boots and all that stuff.
Yeah, and you see it, I mean, all the time from rookie quarterbacks. They just get better. The more experience they get, and they get better as the year goes on. And Bo coming in with 61 starts in college, he already was mature to start. It is, I mean, he does have 5 interceptions in the last 3 games. He only has 11 all year, and almost half of them been in the last 3 games. And the Bengals are starting to really get a lot of turnovers and getting that going. So that I mean, it's always the key to any game is turnovers, but that is how this Bengals team wins. I wouldn't expect them to just totally shut down the Broncos the way they did the Browns, but
no way.
If you can get a turnover here and there, that would go a long way, and giving Burrow an extra possession. And I think that the Bengals are the Denver defense has been good. I still think the Bengals are going to find a way to score points. It's just going to be a matter of how many they limit. It is interesting. Denver's been pretty good running the ball, but they don't rely on any one guy. They have not had a 100-yard rusher since the 2022 season finale. That's the longest streak in the league. In that same time frame, the Bengals have given up 900-yard rushers. Only Carolina and Arizona have more. So where does it come from this year? It's Javonte Williams. The Broncos have had 5 different leading rushers this year. They're just, it's hard to know who's going to be the guy on any given day. And, you're seeing McKinley Jackson and Chris Jenkins kind of step up in the middle. Is this going to be a game where the Broncos just run all over the Bengals, or is this going to be a game where they can actually stop the run and force Bo Nix to try to beat him with his arm? And Bo Nix also, he's one of those ones. He's led them in rushing in several games this year.
Yeah. You got a referee outlook for me, or how evil is it going to be? Like the evil Ron Torbert. No Ron Torbert. But how evil is it, Jay?
It's not Ron Torbert. It's actually I would say friendly, and I wait for this, Dan.
Friendly. All right, I'll turn it off. I'll turn it off then.
Friendly and familiar. Adrian Hill is the referee. This will be the 11th. He became a head referee in 2019. This is the 11th game he's going to call of the Bengals. No referee has called Bengals games more in that span, and the Bengals have won 5 of the last 6. They're 6-4 overall with him as the referee. So winning record, but 5 of the last 6 is Adrian Hill has been on the call. So and he's in the middle of the pack. He's 7th this year in total penalties called per game. Was 9th last year, was 9th the year before. So you feel good that this is not necessarily going to be a favorable for the Bengals, but at least you feel good that this isn't going to be just a flag fest the way some of these past games have been.
I was going to say, I feel like every single week you sat here in this segment and told me, all right, this is the 3rd most flags, the 4th most flags, the 2nd most flags crew. So I'll take 7th at this point. I just want less flags in general. We just need less flags. I can't take any more of these flag fest games. So, all right.
Now, actually, Hill's crew threw 20 flags last week, but maybe they got it out of their system and they reverted back to where they normally are.
System. That's it. Everybody's feeling better about it now. All right. Jay, you got some more stats for me?
Yeah, I do. I got a bunch of them. I'm not sure which one I want to go with here. I've got another stat, but I'm gonna save that for my Arby's.
Okay.
It's an interesting one. I think it's going to make anybody that goes to the game Saturday happy.
Oh, I like that. Good teaser. What was our RPBs from last week? We didn't get into last week's RPBs yet.
Yeah, so last week it was 4th quarter points allowed, because the Bengals were allowing points in every 4th quarter. I believe it was 10 or 11 games in a row they allowed 4th quarter points. Total sacks in the game, or DTR, yards per attempt. Sacks won. There was 9 sacks. DTR averaged 4.6 yards per attempt, and the Bengals did not give up any 4th quarter points at all. I ran with 4th quarter points. I had no faith in this defense, and they proved me wrong. They pitched a shutout in the 4th quarter. You got it. You got the run right. You went with sacks. you passed on fourth quarter points, and we both booed at DTR, and 4.6 is not very good, but it's hard not to beat 0.
Well, yeah, and don't turnovers and down in the
Yeah.
red zone area by the Browns. It's not like they didn't move the ball in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
they had opportunities. Okay. All right, Growler bet from last week. We went with Bengals penalty yards.
Yeah.
What did the
They had-
Bengals penalty yards end up being against the Browns?
And they had 3 straight games with 10 plus penalties. They did not have that many penalties last week. They only had 35 penalty yards. They kind of got back to who they are. There weren't a lot of guesses to keep the 100 streak or the 10 plus streak going and the high penalty yards going, but there was a lot of 69s. Shout out to our followers there. Everybody went with 69 penalty yard. Not everybody, but a lot of people went with 69 penalty yards. But that's where a lot of the guesses lived, in that 60, 70, 80 range. Nobody won. Nobody got 34 right or 35 right. But Danny Boy KC was one away. He had 34. Again, people going off of those nice not even, 35 is not an even number. It's not really a round number. I don't know what you call it, but he was right there. 34. The answer was 35.
So close, but yet you get nothing. A great attempt, though. Just go. It's not. You're right. It's a number. It's a comfortable number. I feel like people feel like you have to go to the uncut, especially when you do with penalties. Penalties comes in 5s, 10s, and 15s.
Exactly.
It's a number that you should be living by. 35. It was right there for you.
Unless you're in Tennessee and they only give a 4-yard penalty on delay a game.
Yeah. That's right. You never know. You never know when you're going to get there. We did have some good submissions to the Growler bet that I want to highlight. This time of year, it tends to it sparks some people. And so we saw more than a few of those. I saw Mommy kissing Santa's Growler. Good place to start there. So we had that was from John Tonner. Let's see, we had Austin Ward. I'm just praying for the Lord to deliver me from these pre-snap penalties. Enjoyed that, playing off Jameis Winston's comment from earlier. We had Andrew White. I got a lot of penalties with you people, and now you're going to hear about it. I'm always going to have love for Festivus. If you're going to drop me a Festivus line, always good. And of course, we had Zach Jackson on last week, so Jeremy Gibson in honor of that. Vodka, egg rolls, and Growler bets. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Drop it in there as an ode to Zach. Let's see. We had a note here from Brian. Brian Ramsetter said, I learned Harambe is a Swahili word that means working together, pulling together, helping each other, caring and sharing. He pointed to what a better message for Bengals fans at Christmas time. And honoring Jay's mistaken Harambe, there is no Growler bet that brings the Growl pals together better than 69. And he's right. And you noted it, that there was a lot of that happening. It really did bring everyone together. So shout out to him that. And then we had one more. You people keep trying to make me sing. And we had another one. Now Bob Squance dropped me a Fish song. And so, like as a resident Fish head, he plays a little bit to me. And people are like, oh, good. One without words, please. Now, unfortunately, this one does. It was from Farmhouse. I don't know. I don't know that I should sing. I don't know. I want to tell Bob that I appreciate it, but I feel like I've been singing too much, and I don't know that I should do that. But it was very well done, and I want Bob to know that I appreciate his submission. But I just need a break from singing. I think everybody needs a break from me singing.
You've been caroling too much.
There has been a lot of caroling. Our family tends to be a caroling family. Like, that's been a thing, not like going around house to house, but like singing at Christmas time is in our family's history.
Okay.
A lot of singing songs together. We didn't do it as much this year. We were very game heavy this year. But 12 days of Christmas, like usually we'll do, everybody draws one out of the hat, and then everybody picks one. That is a Daner family tradition that goes back a long time. And so that is one of those. But anyway, shout out to everybody that's sending your submissions. We love them. We appreciate them. All right, predictions. What do we got, Jay? What are you thinking?
What do we want to do this week's Growler bet?
Oh, yeah. I always see I'm out here trying to take Growler bets away from people. I got all excited talking about 12 days of Christmas. Yeah, what are we doing this week?
So, again, I got a stat to roll in to the Growler bet. This week's Growler bet is going to be time of game that Jamar Chase breaks the franchise record for receptions in a season. TJ Houshmandzadeh has the record with 112. Jamar currently at 108. You're thinking, well, how do we know for sure he's going to break it? Jamar's had at least 5 catches in 11 straight games. That's the longest active streak in the NFL. It's the second longest streak in Bengals history. Jamar already owns the record with 15 straight games with at least 5 receptions. So he's got that one. The NFL record's 36 by AB, Antonio Brown. Next closest is 23. That's just crazy to have a lead to that. So I do think we'll say it's time of game for Jamar's 5th catch. If for some reason he doesn't get it, should we put a tiebreaker in there for Jamar total yard or Jamar receiving
Let's
yards?
just assume it's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, then we'll double
nobody
up
wins
next week. Yeah, nobody wins. We'll double up next week.
Now, do we want to put a buffer on it?
Yeah, I think we got to put a buffer. We can't. People aren't going to hit it to the second. It's the Christmas season. Let's go 5 seconds in either direction.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, wow. That's right. And obviously, if there's multiple in there, whoever is closest would be our winner. But let's go 5 seconds in either direction. So a 10-second span is where you can go. Time of game of Jamar Chase's 5th reception in this game, which would give him the franchise record for most receptions in a single season, breaking TJ Houshmandzadeh's record of 112. What's your guess, Jay?
I'm going to go the 15-minute mark of the third quarter. First play of the third quarter, he breaks it.
First play of the third quarter. I do wonder what the Broncos are going to do with Patrick Surtain. So,
yeah,
how much are they going to follow Jamar around? That's very hard to do, though. The way the Bengals move him, it becomes very hard to say because they'll just keep motioning him into the slot, moving him into the backfield, finding other creative ways to get him the ball. But Surtain can ball, man, and it's a very fun one-on-one to see these two guys go against each other when they do. But they'll still find ways to get Jamar the ball. I'm going to go earlier than that. I think an early and often approach is going to happen. So I'm going to go 4:22. 4:22 in the second quarter, 4:22, 5th reception happens for Jamar Chase. That's me. Send your submissions into the Growler podcast at gmail.com. Of course, you can still drop it to us on X. Hashtag Bengals Growler Bet. Hashtag Bengals Growler Bet. And when you send us the emails, put Growler in the header. Make me laugh when we'll talk about you. You know how it goes. All right. Predictions now for you, Jay. What do you think?
Yeah, I said it before. I think the Bengals are going to be able to keep their streak going of scoring at least 24, just barely. I do think that the Broncos defense is good, but we've seen them light up good defenses in the past. I don't think there's a defense out there that can shut down this Bengals offense the way it's playing right now. I do think that the Bengals have, what you said, they don't beat teams with winning records. They've done a really good job defensively against these Cooper Rush, Will Levis, DTR. Bo Nix isn't quite in that category, but he's not quite in the make you shake in your boots category either. So I think the defense gets some turnovers, keeps a little bit of this momentum running, keeps hope alive going into week 18. Who would have thought at 1-4 after what we said that lost to Baltimore in overtime that we'd be talking about this right now? But I think they've got another week of something big to play for, and the Bengals pulled this out 24-19.
Wow. I would be surprised if it was that low scoring for me. I don't. So you're betting on the young players on this Bengals defense building on this momentum that they've gotten against some of these lower quarterbacks. I hear you. I just don't see it. I think they have been lucky to get the ball thrown to them a bunch. I mean, they have gotten turnovers that have sort of brushed over, still giving up a ton of explosives, still giving up, yards in the run game, high complete. They just, the underlying stats of success have still been there for some of these opposing offenses, even bad offenses. It's just they've gotten these turnovers from bad quarterbacks that aren't as good. Bo Nix hasn't done that. He hasn't really been just throwing the ball to the other team. Now, they have their limitations in ways, but Sean Payton's kept it moving. They've found a way to make it work. And the Denver defense is pretty good. I'm with you on that part, though. I don't think the Bengals offense can really be stopped by any defense right now. I just think they've just got it cooking too good. Orlando Brown back full. We'll know more later on today. Keep it locked to us to know, but he could be back. Mims looks like he's probably going to be okay. You can have your line back a little bit more intact, which they've been missing in recent weeks. I think they're in a good spot to score a lot of points. It's scar tissue. It's theme of the season.
Yeah.
It's what this defense, I still think they are. I don't think that they've turned this massive corner. I have the latest edition of the haunt meter. Another submission. Broncos 34, Bengals 33 is my final here on this one. I think it goes high scoring again. I think they trade back and forth, and the Bengals are right there. And I don't know the nasty, heartbreaking, awful way that the Bengals will take the L in this game. I'm not going to go there, other than we won't have seen it yet this season. I'm sure it's going to be something new because that's kind of the way it's gone against all these decent teams. And so that's my thought on it right now. I think that there's certainly a great chance that it could end up going the opposite way. They have turned the corner. The defense is making a few more plays. They do get that turnover. It doesn't feel like it did early in the season. I just think this team has shown its stripes too much to be the team that just isn't there with that yet and isn't quite good enough there yet to make it happen. And they've been sloppy still, even against these bad teams in recent weeks. So I don't know that I'm buying the major progress that it's going to feel dramatically different than it did against winning teams earlier in the year, but it's why they play the games. And if they can win, they'll still be alive. Either way, we'll still be there on the walkout presented by Cincy Shirts. We'll still be there next week and throughout the offseason as we start diving into that whenever that starts. Look out for that. Arby's, Jay, let's rock out here with some Arby's.
Yeah, so a friend of mine, he was the sports editor and then later the managing editor at the Hamilton paper when I was there. Dirk Allen, he asked me about this one time. I looked it up. It's an amazing stat. First, I want to say Dirk has had season tickets forever, and I don't know that anybody else does this. I think it's really cool. He just takes a different person with him every game, like a fan of the opposing team. Or so he asked me about their record. He's like, it always seems like they find a way to send them home happy.
Happy.
No matter how bad the season is, they always win that final game at home. Well, he's right. They are 11-1 in their last 12 home openers, or home finales.
Yeah.
It's just a remarkable run. 27-7 since 1990. There have been some bad years in there, and that's what makes this even more remarkable. Is that in seasons when they've gone into the home finale with a losing record, as they will on Saturday, they are 12-1 in the last 13 and 17-2 in the last 19. There have been some bad teams that have found a way to win that home finale. It's kind of the reason I'm leaning towards a win on Saturday. You never bet against the trend, and the Bengals always find a way to send them home happy.
Can I take my prediction back? I mean, that is unbelievable. It's so true, though. And we talked about, I reeled off 5 seasons in the 90s, right? Where they were winless against teams winning. The 90s, it was like that every single year. It felt like this. And then you're right. At the end, they'd send them home happy. They'd find a way to go win that one. And it was always that would be so frustrating for Bengals fans, because those would be used as reasons to, look, progress is being made, stick with the plan, and the next year go down to the same terrible path again. maybe that is what happens. Maybe it's not what happens, but it is unbelievable. It is the ultimate Bengals trait in franchise history. Send them home happy. Love that. I just want to give a quick shout out to Bengals PR because, well, first of all, we have lots of love for Bengals PR and all the things that they do to help us with everything that we do. So, and they do a lot of this through the holidays. They're just as busy as anybody. Hard Knocks has not been easy for them. They have a lot on their plate. PJ Combs, Emily Parker, Kyle Williams, we rely on them for so much, their entire staff over there. They had to come in when Hard Knocks, if you watched Hard Knocks, had a 4-shot of every coach walking into the building. And these coaches show up really early. Zach Taylor shows up really early. Emily had to go down there and be there just to be there with the Hard Knocks crew at like 5 in the morning. Had to get up and just to go down because they had to have that one shot. So when you see that one shot, the little 3-second blip in Hard Knocks, that is just a perfect example of it. Just throws off your entire morning, your entire day, everything you're going to do. You got to show up just for that, And by the way, you're also there very late into the evening most nights too. But Hard Knocks has been a lot onto their plate. It's already a busy time of year, already through the holidays. They do a lot. They try to help us and a lot of different mouths that there are to feed. So thanks to them. And shout out to those that have to do crazy things like show up at 5 a.m. to get a 3-second shot of Zach Taylor walking in to the Bengals Stadium. So happy holidays to everybody involved. All right. That'll wrap us up. Next, walkout is coming after the Bengals and Broncos. And of course, the live show down at BetMGM Nation Kitchen Bar at the Banks. Maybe I'll pay for your bar tab. Maybe you'll get a Cincy Shirts Catania shirt. Or maybe you'll get, I don't know, the new Superman shirt. Or maybe any of our, maybe you'll get a greater shipper. I don't know what it is, but we'll be giving stuff away. We'll be having fun down there. 12 o'clock. Come meet us, have some drinks, stay warm, and get the party started right. So we hope to see you down there on Saturday. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a good one.